A warm welcome to you all. Students, in our previous class, we have seen that how the East India Company succeeded in having a puppet ruler in Bengal. This puppet ruler was supposed to satisfy the company by fulfilling all its demands. Finally, in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of the province of Bengal. Well, what is this Diwan? Yes, it means the company became the financial administrator of the province. In short, all the matters related to money were handled by the company. This in turn helped the company to flourish its trade. Earlier, to trade with India, the company used to bring gold and silver from Britain. Since the company now was appointed as the Diwan of the province of Bengal, the revenue from Bengal was sufficient for the company to carry the trade. That is, there was no more need to get gold and silver from Britain. Students, in our first lesson, we have seen that our country India was ruled under several governor generals, starting from Warren Hastings till the last viceroy, Mountbatten. Each one of them contributed for the establishment of the British rule in India. Well, they did so by introducing various policies in India. Students, now let us learn the three important policies introduced by the three different governor generals. The first, Lord Wellesley, whose name is associated with the policy introduced by him, namely the subsidiary alliance. Well, what is this subsidiary alliance? Yes, under this policy, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company. For this protection, the rulers were supposed to pay for the company. If the Indian rulers failed to make the payment, then part of their territory was taken away as penalty. Next important Governor General was Lord Hastings. He was well known for the policy introduced by him, namely paramountcy or supreme. Under this policy, he claimed that the company's authority was supreme. Its power was greater than that of Indian states. Therefore, in order to protect its interest, it could annex or take away or threaten any Indian kingdom. This process, however, did not go unchallenged. For example, when the British tried to annex the small state of Kittur in Karnataka, Rani Channamma took to arms and led an anti-British resistance movement. She was arrested in 1824 and died in prison in 1829. The third important policy that was introduced in India was the doctrine of lapse. This policy was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. This policy declared that if an Indian ruler died without a son, his kingdom would lapse, that is, become part of company territory. By applying this policy, the company managed to annex many kingdoms of India, including Jhansi. Students, though the British introduced many policies to establish their rule in India, their policies did not go unchallenged. Now, let us take two famous examples to prove this statement. First, the Tiger of Mysore was one of the strongest rulers to oppose the company rule in India. He was none other than Tipu Sultan, the ruler of Mysore. This Mysore was strengthened under the leadership of Hyder Ali and his son Tipu Sultan. The company purchased pepper and cardamom from the Malabar coast. This coast was controlled by Mysore. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants from trading with the company. He also established a close relationship with the French in India and modernized his army with their help. The British fought 4 wars with Mysore. Only in the last, the Battle of Seringapatam, Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital. Next important example we have is of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. In 1830s, the East India Company was worried about Russia. It imagined that Russia might enter India from the northwest. In order to avoid this, the company fought a prolonged war with Afghanistan and established indirect company rule there. Sindh was taken over in 1843. Next in line was Punjab. But the presence of Maharaja Ranjit Singh held back the company. After his death in 1839, 2 prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdom. Ultimately, in 1849, Punjab was annexed. Students, so far we have seen that these 3 policies were introduced by the Governor Generals in India to establish the company rule. Now, let us learn something about their administration. Since the company had managed to establish its rule not only in Bengal but also in other provinces, these British territories were broadly divided into administrative units called presidencies. There were 3 presidencies, namely Bengal, Madras and Bombay. Each was ruled by a governor. The supreme head of the administration was the Governor General. Warren Hastings, the first Governor General, introduced several administrative reforms, especially in the sphere of justice. Each district had 2 courts. One, a criminal court which handled all criminal cases. Criminal cases happen when someone breaks a law or commits a criminal offense which typically results in jail time. A criminal case is filed by the government and is led by a prosecuting attorney. And the other one was a civil court which handled civil cases. Civil cases handle almost all other disputes and typically aim for some sort of recovery. Maulvis and Hindu Pandits interpreted Indian laws for the European district collectors who presided over civil courts. The criminal courts were still under a Qazi and a Mufti, but under the supervision of the collectors. The principal figure in an Indian district was the collector. As the title suggests, his main job was to collect revenue and taxes and maintain law and order in his district with the help of judges, police officers and darogas. Students, now let us take a look at the company army. Colonial rule in India brought in some new ideas of administration and reform, but its power rested on its military strength. The Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry and infantry, that is, Paidal soldiers. In the 18th century, when Mughal successor states like Oudh and Benares started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them as professional soldiers, the East India Company adopted the same method, which came to be known as the Sepoy Army. This word was derived from the Indian word Sipahi, meaning soldier. Due to the change in technology, that is, the use of musket and matchlocks, the need of cavalry declined and infantry became more important. In the early 19th century, the British began to develop a uniform military culture. Soldiers were trained in the European style. This often created problems since caste and community feelings were ignored by the European rulers. And the effect of this was seen in the revolt of 1857, wherein the sepoys were revolted against the British rule. Students, let us go through these important points that we have covered today. See you in the next class. Till then, goodbye. God bless you.